I cannot imagine a world without indie games anymore, and thankfully, neither can Nintendo. But even on a platform that brought us Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, indie games are still some of the very best you'll find on Nintendo Switch. But for this list, we're only gonna go with games that are either exclusive to Switch or debuted on the Switch alongside other platforms. So there's not gonna be any Super Meat Boys or Rocket Leagues, the other usual suspects. So hey, I'm Nervous Nick, the Screw Attack's Top 10 Nintendo Switch Indie Games.
Number 10.
So as I was very impatiently waiting to play Mario Odyssey, I found a sale on this other platformer I was curious about. But this game wasn't a platformer where you jumped, instead, you slithered. Snake Pass's controls may be tricky to figure out at first, but once you get into it, there's no other game quite like it. But it ain't perfect. I'd like to say that actually having to slither so you don't move at a miserably slow pace is cute, but it actually gets really old really fast. And this is also the one Switch game that somehow manages to hurt my hands after a while, but I'm usually too focused on climbing and stuff to care much. And besides, look at how cute this snack is. His name is Noodle. Oh, but I've gotta say, man, this game is tough. Like, almost frustratingly so. Not even the soundtrack by David Wise can keep you calm if you're the completionist type. But if you want a platformer completely unlike any other, Snake Pass is still the way to go. Just stop falling into oblivion, you stupid! Oh, I can't be mad at you.
Number 9.
Now, if you want an indie roguelike game on your Switch, basically everyone is gonna recommend The Binding of Isaac. There's no doubt about that. But since it didn't debut on Switch, it doesn't count for this list. But don't worry though, Wizard of Legend will still scratch that roguelike itch. Like The Binding of Isaac, Wizard of Legend has you battling enemies small and large in a procedurally generated world, filling up the screen with fireballs and water sharks. Whatever that's about, that feels awesome, and it's action-packed. The graphics have this smoothed-out 16-bit pixelated look to them, the sound effects are satisfyingly impactful, and thanks to the Switch's Joy-Cons, you can play it co-op even while on the go. Wizard of Legend is worthy competition for Binding of Isaac, and it's $24 cheaper too. And if there's one thing I like more than dashing around a screen blowing up enemies, it's dashing around a screen blowing up enemies for cheap.
Number 8.
You remember the days when every movie out there used to get a video game tie-in? I can't believe I'm actually kind of nostalgic for the days of Michael Jackson's Moonwalker or High School Musical. But occasionally, video game tie-ins were actually the best thing about a movie, just like it was with the Mummy Demaster. Now, if you like movies with trailers that get leaked with awkward Tom Cruise screams, then you're not gonna really find anything here. But if you like Metroid, if you like Castlevania, or if you just simply have good taste, you will like this game. But get this, if you die, you have to go get all your stuff again from your own zombified body. And besides, the fact that it's developed by Way Forward, the company responsible for Shantae, should be enough to convince you that the Mummy Demastered totally deserves to be on this top 10. And on that note, can we get more movies demastered in the future? Like, imagine John Wick or the Predator. Or could we demake The Lion King for that new movie? Please Way Forward, give it to me.
Number 7.
Where's F-Zero? I want F-Zero. Nintendo, please give F-Zero, yada yada yada. We haven't heard the end of it since F-Zero GX on GameCube. Well, God only knows if we're ever gonna see Captain Falcon in something that's not Smash Brothers ever again, but until that day comes, Fast RMX more than fills that void. Now, if there's any game out there, indie or otherwise, that deserves to have the name Fast in its title, it is this one, because it's literally the name of the game. Plus, it's got this color switching mechanic straight out of Ikaruga, where speed boosters only work if you match the color of the strip. Because, you know, the sheer speed of Fast RMX doesn't demand enough of your focus as it is. Add in online multiplayer, local split screen, and a constant 60 frames per second, and you're in for the indie adrenaline rush of your life.
Number 6.
And now we go back to the complete opposite end of the adrenaline spectrum. One of the best things about Switch is how it's basically designed from the ground up to encourage old-fashioned couch co-op, no matter where you are. everywhere you go, you've already got a second controller so someone else can join you for a game of Snipperclips. You know, the words co-op puzzle game sadly don't describe enough games out there, but even if they did, Snipperclips would still stand out. Every level drops you into a new scenario that you have to solve by reshaping each other for whatever the objective may be. That could be everything from filling a dotted line to shooting threes to catching UFOs. But mark my words, if you ever play Snipperclips with me and you mess up, I will cut you into an appropriate shape so we can beat the level together.
Number 5.
You remember that time when Mario Golf on Game Boy had a full-fledged RPG story mode for some reason? Yeah, that was kind of neat. And so is Golf Story for all the same reasons and then some. Imagine an RPG where instead of chopping your enemy to bits with a sword, you play the gentlemanly sport of golf. The story in Golf Story is surprisingly great for a sports game, and being able to explore the world through your golf shots is really unlike any other game out there. And for those of you keeping track, Golf Story is totally exclusive to Switch.
Number 4.
It's amazing how unique a game can be when you just take two genres and mash them up into one. When you combine a platforming game with pinball of all things, you get the wonderful Yoku's Island Express. Even though you can control your adorable little dung beetle like you'd expect, you won't be doing any jumping without using the pinball flippers in the world, which you can control with your shoulder buttons. Yoku's Island Express isn't the only Metroidvania game on this list, but it is the only Metroidvania game with this artistic graphical style, a cheery tropical soundtrack, and again, it's pinball. But it's like Metroid. But it's not like Metroid Prime Pinball. I forgot that was a thing. It's different. It's good. Just put it next number.
Number 3.
Okay, some of the other games on this list, like the Mummy Demaster, may be called Metroidvania games, but come on, sometimes things are better left to the OGs. The creator of Castlevania, Koji Igarashi, is coming back with a new hotness, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, someday. But while we're waiting, Igarashi-san has blessed us with Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Think less Symphony of the Night and more Castlevania 3. Curse of the Moon is some top-notch Metroidvania done entirely in a classic NES style. You switch between characters, each with their own playstyles, like sword swinging or spellcasting and even some good old-fashioned whipping. It's one of those games that's short but really, really sweet. And for just $10, Curse of the Moon should be enough to hold us over until Ritual of the Night comes out. A release date, Igarashi. I need a release date already!
Number 2.
Steamworld Dig 2! Man, this game rocks! Not just because there's literally rocks all over the dang place, but because Steamworld Dig 2 is one of the very best indie games on Switch or any console out there. It's pretty simple. You're a robot named Dorothy who digs for treasure, fights bad guys, and gets some sick upgrades along the way. And I've always thought that there are two things that can instantly make a game exponentially better: grappling hooks and jetpacks. I'm pleased to announce that Steamworld Dig 2 has both, and they make getting around even more fun. And if those aren't enough to rope you in, the story definitely will be. Seriously, load up your eShop, drop $20 on it, and dig into this indie gem. Dig in to this indie gem. Please laugh.
It's number 1.
The only way number 1 on this list even could surprise you is if you've never heard of Celeste. Sure, indie games have no shortage of platformers or even really tough platformers, but Celeste is something else entirely. You play as Madeline, a woman who scales Celeste Mountain, which is 90 levels of wall jumping, air dashing, screaming at your Switch because this game is so freaking hard, and finally going, aha, when you figure out how to put all the pieces together. It's even cleverly got this story about overcoming self-doubt. As Madeline overcomes her kinda sorta literal inner demons, you believe in yourself even more because you're steadily clearing these super challenging segments. And you do it with nothing but your own skill and ingenuity. It's a story that's just as satisfying as the game itself, and for the perfectionists out there, there is plenty of replayability to be found here. Right now, Celeste is one of the absolute greatest indie hits out there, and there's no better place to ascend Celeste Mountain than on Nintendo Switch. For our secret number 11, how does it get more low-budget indie than a bunch of cardboard and your own imagination? Nintendo's Labo does more than just the pre-programmed stuff the game tells you can do, thanks to the creative people who make their own stuff out of it. People have made everything from a Game & Watch game to a dog treat dispenser to the best thing of all, RC car knife fights!